Welcome to Arhanta Yoga Ashram. Today we have come up with a new topic about how to start your yoga journey with a 200-hour yoga teacher training. Let's start with an honest truth. Welcome. If you've been practicing yoga for a while and feel a quiet nudge toward something deeper, this episode is for you. Maybe you're curious about teaching. Maybe you simply want to understand yoga beyond the poses you practice in class. Or maybe you're standing at a crossroads, sensing that yoga could become more than a weekly habit. Today, we're talking about how to start your yoga journey with a 200-hour yoga teacher training, or what it really involves, how it changes people, and what you should understand before you begin. This isn't a sales pitch, it's an honest conversation, grounded in experience, education, and what students consistently discover along the way. Why a 200-hour yoga teacher training is often the first step. The 200-hour yoga teacher training has become the global foundation for structured yoga education, not because it promises mastery, but because it introduces you to the full landscape of yoga in a coherent way. Most people enter training thinking it's primarily about learning poses. What they quickly realize is that it's about learning how yoga works on the body, the breath, the mind, and daily life. Research in adult learning shows that immersive education changes not only knowledge, but identity. A 200-hour yoga training often marks the moment when yoga shifts from something you do to something you understand. You don't need to know where the journey ends. One of the biggest myths around yoga teacher training is that you need a clear end goal: teaching, opening a studio, changing careers. In reality, many people start a 200-hour yoga training without knowing where it will lead. And that's not a weakness, it's often a strength. Training invites exploration. It gives you language, tools, and context. What you do with them unfolds over time. Some graduates teach immediately, others deepen their personal practice. Some integrate yoga philosophy into their work, parenting, or health routines. All of these paths are valid. What changes when you learn yoga systematically? Practicing yoga is experiential. Studying yoga is analytical and reflective. A 200-hour yoga teacher training brings these together. As you move through training, you begin to notice changes in how you relate to practice. You start asking different questions. Why does this pose feel supportive today and challenging tomorrow? Why does breath affect focus so strongly? Why does slowing down feel uncomfortable at first? Modern research into movement science and mindfulness helps explain these shifts. Learning about yoga anatomy basics, nervous system regulation, and attention patterns gives you a framework for experiences you may have already felt but never named. Understanding replaces guessing. Confidence grows quietly. Physical ability is not the entry requirement. Many people delay training because they think they're not flexible, strong, or advanced enough. In truth, a well-designed 200-hour yoga teacher training is not for perfect bodies, it's for curious minds. Anatomy education increasingly emphasizes functional movement and individual variation. Bone structure, joint shape, connective tissue density. These factors matter far more than how a pose looks. When students understand this, comparison begins to fade. Practice becomes more personal and more honest. You don't train because you can already do yoga well, you train to understand it better. Philosophy is where the journey deepens. For many students, yoga philosophy is the unexpected heart of a 200-hour yoga training. Far from being abstract or outdated, it offers tools for understanding stress, attention, ethics, and choice. Concepts like steady practice, non-attachment, and self-observation align closely with contemporary psychology and behavioral science. They explain why the mind repeats patterns and how awareness creates space for change. As students study yoga philosophy, they often notice subtle shifts: less reactivity, more patience, a gentler relationship with effort. This is where yoga moves off the mat and into life. Teaching is learned gradually, not expected immediately. The idea of teaching can feel intimidating, especially at the beginning. Most people don't enter training feeling confident about standing in front of others. A supportive 200-hour yoga teacher training introduces teaching in stages, first through understanding structure, then through observing others, then through small, guided practice. Communication skills, sequencing, and cueing are taught as learnable skills, not personality traits. Over time, teaching becomes less about performance and more about clarity. Even those who never teach publicly gain confidence in how they communicate and hold space. Training requires time, energy, and integration. A 200-hour yoga teacher training is not something you casually fit into spare moments. It requires commitment mentally, physically, and emotionally. Beyond scheduled sessions, students spend time reflecting, practicing, studying, and resting. Educational research consistently shows that reflection is where learning becomes embodied. This is why rushing through training often leads to overwhelm, while paced learning supports integration. Choosing a format that fits your life, whether immersive or spread out, matters more than finishing quickly. Community becomes part of the learning. One of the most transformative aspects of yoga teacher training is the community that forms. People arrive with different backgrounds, motivations, and experiences. Over time, shared learning creates connection. Listening to others articulate their struggles and insights often mirrors your own inner process. Group learning develops empathy, communication, and self-awareness. These relational skills are central to yoga, even when teaching is not the goal. Certification is the beginning, not the destination. Completing a 200-hour yoga training doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you've been introduced. Graduates often leave with more questions than answers, and that's healthy. Quality programs emphasize ongoing study, ethical responsibility, and humility. Yoga is not a system you complete. It's a practice you continue to refine. Understanding this early protects you from pressure and unrealistic expectations. Choosing the right training shapes the journey. Not all 200-hour yoga teacher trainings are the same. The environment, teaching experience, curriculum balance, and support systems matter deeply. A strong program offers structure without rigidity, depth without dogma, and challenge without pressure. It makes beginners feel supported rather than tested. Asking questions, reading reviews thoughtfully, and trusting your discernment are part of the yogic process. How the journey often feels in the end. By the time training concludes, most people notice a shift. Not dramatic or sudden, but steady. Practice feels more intentional. Breath feels more available. Effort feels more balanced. Life feels slightly less rushed. Whether or not teaching becomes part of your path, the way you relate to your body, mind, and choices has changed. And that is the real beginning. Final reflection. Starting your yoga journey with a 200-hour yoga teacher training is not about becoming someone new. It's about understanding what's already present in your body. Your patterns, your capacity to learn. You don't need certainty. You don't need perfection. You need curiosity and willingness. Yoga teacher training doesn't promise answers. It offers better questions and the tools to live with them more clearly. Thank you for listening. To learn more about the yoga training, visit our official website, www.arhantayoga.org.